Hey everybody, and welcome to the exercise solutions for selecting subsets of data from DataFrames with Loc. All right, so exercise 1 tells us to read in the movie dataset and put the title as the index column. So let's go ahead and do that first. So we'll be using this for the remainder of the exercises. Then it says select all the columns for the movie The Dark Knight Rises. So since the title is now the index, we can use that to our advantage and use .loc, which is able to select by label on the, by rows and columns simultaneously. So what we want to do here is just put in the movie The Dark Knight Rises. So that'll be the row selection, and then the column selection will be all of those columns. So we'll just use an empty slice here. So this gets all of the values, basically that entire row as a series that it has returned. So this is all the data for The Dark Knight Rises. Now we could, it's optional to actually put the colon over there. So you might see this, which will work exactly the same. But I do like using the colon. It does help you, reinforce the fact that you are selecting rows and columns simultaneously with .loc. But however you feel comfortable, that's fine. All right, let's moving on to the next one. It says select columns for the movies Tangled and Avatar. So select all columns. So actually, this is part of the rows. So we're going to do Tangled and Avatar. So we're going to use the movie data set. And these are the rows that we want to select with those labels, Tangled and Avatar. So .loc, we will just feed it the rows, which are this two-item list, a simple list, and then we're going to get all of the columns. So we can just use the slice notation over here to select all of the columns. And again, this is optional, so you might see it like this. All right, so it says what year was Tangled and Avatar made, and what was their IMDb score? So you can actually get this directly, from this right over here. You can see this is the year made, but it's actually quite a bit easier if you go ahead and just do simultaneous row and column selection. So if we look at, we just get the year column and the IMDb score column, and that's over here at the very end. We can just get those exactly so it'll be much easier to read. So I'm going to use a list for both. Again, Loc is only handles labels. You can select by labels of your data frame. So this makes it much easier to answer the question. So Tangled is in 2010, Avatar is 2009, and these are the IMDb scores. All right, let's keep going. It says, can you tell what the data type of the year column is just by looking at its values? Okay, so I don't think I explicitly went over this. So here's the year column over here. Now the way Pandas outputs, so it looks like year should be integer, right? So that's number one. I don't think the movie data set is going to, use a half a year. Movies are typically announced as the entire year as a whole number, not as a partial year. So, but as you can see here, there's a decimal point and then 0.0. So Pandas will actually, as the default display, will show the decimal whenever there's a float, whenever it's a float column. So internally, it looks like year is in fact a float column. So it says turn this into a markdown cell, but we'll just say it's a float column and then just look up .d types. And in fact, year is a float column. So what's probably happened is that there are missing values in here, and Pandas will force a coercion of even if all the other values are integer into a float so that it can have a missing value representation. So that's a little heads up whenever you see a decimal, even though it appears to be a whole number or an integer, that in fact you may actually have a float. Okay. It says use a single method to output the data type and a number of non-missing values of year. Is it missing any? So this is the info method. which we've talked about before. So this is that single method, and it gives you the data type right here and the number of missing values, or the number of non-missing values. So there's 4,810. This will tell you the length of the data frame. So there's 4,916 entries. So it looks like there are indeed about 100 missing values of year. So otherwise it would have been 4,916. So you can always tell by the total number of entries that it tells you over there. Some of the columns don't have missing values. Looks like actually most of them do have some missing values, like IMBD score is the only one that does not. It looks like that's equal to 4,916. So all the others have less. All right, moving on. Select every 100th movie between Tangled and Forrest Gump. Why doesn't Forrest Gump appear in the results? Okay, so let's do this one. So movie.loc. So we're going to have to use slice notation here. So we're going to go from Tangled to Forrest Gump, and then we're going to go by every 100. So we're again using the index, so we have to put this first, rows comma calls, and then we don't, this is unnecessary. We could say we just want to select all of the columns here. It's not needed, that colon, but it does help. So anyways, this is going every 100th movie. And there's only 9 rows in this entire data frame. So, so why isn't Forrest Gump the very last one? Because the way loc works is that it's inclusive of the last one. Well, if you have slice notation and your step size is not 1, well then, unless it's an exact multiple of the step size, then you're not going to get that that exact 1. So, unless Forrest Gump is an exact 100 multiple off of Tangled, then you will not see it. So this is every 100th after that. So, Forrest Gump is, after this movie, but it's not a multiple of 100, so it just does not appear in the data set. Okay, so that concludes the exercise solutions for selecting subsets of data from DataFrames with loc.